We have another Orioles legend. Yeah. He actually was a part of that 1983 Baltimore Orioles team. He was the MVP of the World Series. And I get to do, when I'm doing my baseball work, doing camps and clinics, I've had the pleasure to work with this man. So let's bring in Orioles legend Rick Dempsey. Rick.
Hey, thank you, Rocco. Thanks, Ryan. Oh, my God. I've never heard you on radio before. You're awesome.
Well, hey, shock's on you.
Well, wow, I'll tell you what. That's pretty cool.
Well, that's great. And we're actually getting our whole team together here for a second, just so we're not surprising you, Rick. We got Rocco there. We just got back from Camden Yards, and then one of our other co-hosts is Zach Bollinger. Oh, that's not Zach. There's Zach Bollinger and Kevin Ostreicher with us. So this is the whole team that makes it work for us, Rick. But, oh, man, I'm all over the place. But glad to have you on. First off, how you feeling? A lot of news just broke. We just were at Camden Yards. Just your kind of overall sense and take as it's moving in kind of into a new era here of Baltimore baseball.
Well, I'll tell you what, they busted on the scene 2 years ago, really turning that win-loss record around. And then last year, 101 wins and doing what they did all season. Nobody expected that. Nobody did. And now you look at this ball club, Ryan and Rocco, they've made improvements. Even though their number one guy went down on the first day of spring training, they've made improvements that make everybody feel pretty comfortable that if he doesn't get back on time, don't worry about it. Get yourself healthy and ready to go. We've got enough strength in that starting rotation to make up for it. And that's what excites me more than anything now, and back in my day when you had Eddie and Cal and Singy and Lowenstein and Gary Renicky, when you had those guys, you knew we weren't going to have a lack of power or guys who could drive runs in. It was more of a worry on defense for me. And so just be as sharp as I can. And I'll tell you what, I learned a lot about catching when I came to Baltimore. I had the fundamentals down before I got there, but working with your dad and listening to some of the old school things that he brought up, it paid off for me. And helped me to have a very long career at the major league level. But your pop saw the little things about catching that made a difference. And it helped me to take my career, other places other than Baltimore, to the Los Angeles Dodgers. We won a World Series in 1988. And that was a team that was all backup guys. Mostly we only had 3 or 4 regular players, with Kirk Gibson and Steve Sachs and a few of the others, and that was it. And we ended up beating the Oakland A's. But, man, I learned so much in Baltimore. It's my baseball home, even though I played for 6 different teams, because they knew how to run a baseball team. Earl Weaver was not the most fun guy, as you know, to get along with. And neither was your dad, too.
Oh, I don't mess with him on the field. That is for
I
sure.
know it. I know it. Don't take him for granted. I'll tell you what, he will wake you up in a heartbeat, which he did. But you know what? That's what I liked about him. He was all about winning and playing the game the right way. You know that. You probably had to put up with it during your days with him. Granddad was pretty tough, probably. But I absolutely loved him to death. And on top of that, Earl Weaver, even though he was tough, I really kind of loved him too.
Hey, Rick, thank you so much for joining the show. It's great to talk with you, especially
Thanks, Rocco.
on the eve of opening day. It's an exciting time here in Baltimore. As you know, You've gotten to experience plenty of these over the years. I want to ask you, so
sure,
from 83 to now, and I know you probably get asked this question a lot, but you know what it takes to win a World Series. You know what it takes, that chemistry, that recipe, that team belief. What similarities do you see from that 83 team being around this team in 2024 that leads you to believe they can accomplish that ultimate goal and hoist that trophy high in October, November?
I don't think we had as much power or offensive ability back in those days as this ball club shows me that they have now. And they keep producing good young players who adjust very quickly to major league pitching. They've been outstanding. And I think it was Henderson that got off to a slow start, but look at the adjustments he made and came back. I remember a young guy, okay, call him dad if you want, Ryan, but he started off pretty slow, and it was pretty tough his first 30 or 40 at bats. I don't know that he had 1 or 2 hits the whole time, but he adjusted quickly and then became one of the most dangerous hitters in the game. And on top of that, he was smart. He learned the game on defense, and still one of the best shortstops. Although he didn't have a Mark Belanger speed, he thought the game out as perfectly as anybody could do. And look at the record that he set: most games played in a career, and he was incredible. Made himself a great player. But the comparisons. I like the direction they're going. They just don't seem to be intimidated, Rocco, by anybody. They'll put up big numbers against any team. You make mistakes with these guys, and there's something about them that I think is a little bit better than we were in 1983. We thought the game out. We played the game together. You got to be playing the game together. These guys can go up there and smack the hell out of you if you don't make good pitches. And I don't see any teams that are going to be able to handle the Orioles going through this season. Hopefully they stay healthy.
That's the goal. Key is health. And I know right now the arms, they can get healthier, but this lineup, it's deep, it's talented, and they can do a lot of damage. And Rick, Zach's got a question for you, and it's a must-ask question that I think you would appreciate, especially from what you've gone through.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. First, sorry, I didn't get Rocco and Ripken's memo about the suit, so we're rocking this. But
you look good, man. Keep the microphone right there. You can't read. It says, you can't read your inscription on the front. It says no effing. I can't.
Okay.
No friends between the lines.
I mean, Rick, you're kind of right there. It's
wrong.
Wrong one again. Sorry. You are right. If you're saying it's saying no friends between the lines, but you can say whatever you can call, enemies, whatever you want. No effing, whatever works. But anyway, Zach, go ahead.
Yeah, appreciate you joining us, Rick. And as someone who obviously played the catcher position, I think one of Adley has one of the prettiest swings in baseball, but defensively, how important is what he does, even impacting the pitchers, just how he calls a game? And one thing specifically is, how rare is it between innings you see Adley, he always goes out and greets the pitcher and has something? What makes him special in that way?
Well, exactly what you said. That's the one difference that separates Adley Rutschman from every other catcher in Major League Baseball. You don't see the communication between those guys. There may be on the bench, there may be in the clubhouse, but Adley takes it out on the field also, especially at a time when a guy has struggled a little bit, made a couple of tough pitches, things fall in. Adley's right there to keep him in the moment that you need him to be in. And every catcher knows that when a pitcher loses confidence, that's when you've got to be there for him. And one thing in baseball I don't like today, I'm totally against it, is they hire young high school and college people to come in and work with the pitchers in between starts. That's where you learn everything about that pitcher, where the release point is. It's all about the release point. I don't care about the delivery, where you want to come from, underhand, overhand, sidearm, everything. But it's the release point. And once a pitcher throws a couple good balls in the bullpen with that release point, then you go on to your other pitches, and that's how you help a guy during the game, because when he loses it, he's got to be able to trust you're going to come out and say the right thing to him that's going to get him back on track right away, whether it's speed up, slow down, get your arm up, get your balance, quit tipping to the right or the left and all that kind of, it makes a difference. I know that from 1988 playing with the Dodgers. I was the backup catcher to Mike Scioscia during that season, but we had Tim Belcher, Tim Leary, and a lot of the other guys in the bullpen, the young guys that would get off track. They had great talent. I even told Tim one day, you're the best 5-inning pitcher in baseball, but you better come up with another pitch if you think you're going to pitch here for very long. And overnight, he came up with a split finger fastball. And, things like that make a difference in a guy's career. And then he goes on to win 100 games so fast. I didn't even know he was there when he called me. What are you calling me for, Timmy? I just won my 100th game. Oh, my God. But that's why you develop relationships, and that's where Adley Rutschman has the edge over all the other ones that I have seen. They may get along with him, but Adley has a special relationship with every guy out there, and that's what I love about his rapport on this ball club. I don't like any of the catchers the way they go to one knee all the time in baseball. If they're all going to do the same thing, Adley Rutschman's still number one with me. But that letting balls go to the backstop and guys get extra step jumps and trying to steal. I mean, in my day, Cal Ripken Sr. would have been pretty upset with me if I was doing something like that. So, but in today's baseball game, Adley Rutschman still remains the best for me.
Yeah, his connection just with, like you said, the pitchers is just so special and not something you see every day in the league anymore.
Yeah, it's one of a kind. It's. But you know what, Rick, and I know you because you have an appreciation for those catchers. But a guy, the backbone to me. Besides, we're looking at the positions. Obviously, we know the importance of shortstop. We know the importance of having an ace on the mound, playing center field. But the backbone, having a catcher like that, for so many reasons, can shape your team. And a lot of people give a comparison recently to about Buster Posey, and you can say, well, Buster Posey, when he was on the Giants, people believed that they could win. And you could say all you wanted. He was one of the best players on the team, but he commanded and really brought a leadership in so many other ways to the team that benefited the Giants that Adley is doing for the Orioles. I think we have another question about, and Brad, who is helping me out, Rick, so you'll meet Brad here in a second. But I think he has another question about another highly touted player that the Orioles have, but not necessarily is in Baltimore.
That's right. Rick, so I'm like, oh, I gotta fix my camera now, but that's okay. But Rick, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. And what better person to ask a question about catchers than the great Rick Dempsey? So I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you for that.
Of course. Listen, a lot of Birds fans really kind of upset that Jackson Holliday is not going to be starting an opening day. But I kind of made the argument before it was even kind of talked about, as far as, there was a lot of assumptions that were made about Jackson Holliday actually going to be starting the way that he played spring training. But I kind of made the argument that he struck out a lot for one, didn't play a whole lot of AAA ball, and it kind of made a ton of sense to me that he wasn't going to be starting opening day. But I'm certainly open to him starting, kind of like in a similar way that Adley and Gunnar did. And it kind of seems as if that's more the likely trajectory. And even though a lot of fans are kind of upset that he's not starting on opening day, I think that they'll be happy that when he starts later on in the season. What are your thoughts on that?
I think every player's got to learn to adjust to disappointment. Being sent back to the minor leagues is no fun. Believe it or not, even though I got 27 years in pro ball, 24 in the big leagues, I got cut 6 times. And sent back to the minor leagues briefly on a couple of those times. But something mentally, it helps you to be stronger, and you've got to take it that way. I know he's got even Adley Rutschman. Look at Adley. When everybody really wanted to see Adley Rutschman in the big leagues, no, Mike Elias and the ball club decided to let him stay where he is right now till he gets totally healthy, totally mentally prepared to come to the big leagues and play like they know he's capable of playing. And sometimes it's a sour bite, but it pays off in the end. And you got to look at the track record of the way this organization is doing things like that, and you have to respect that as a player. You have to say, okay, they're setting me down for a reason. I'm gonna play down there. Now go down there and get yourself ready to come to the big leagues and be a productive player, not just somebody that comes in that, struggles to get control of his attitude, of his at-bats, his defense, whatever it might be. But take advantage of it the way that the guys that made it to the big leagues the last couple of years ahead of you, their approach too. And then when you get there, you're going to fit right in like a brand new shoe.
Well, and he's so young too, right? He's got plenty of time. I mean, there's no reason to rush it. So I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, let him go down there and be a big fish in a small pond and get that confidence, and then come to the big leagues and see how these guys adjusted. And they don't seem to be a cocky team. They seem to be a confident team. And that's what I like about them. But there's always that old saying that is going to stick with, every season that we see as baseball players, ex-baseball players, whatever. Hitting will win you a lot of ball games. There's no doubt about that. But pitching and defense will win you the championships. And it's never going to change. I don't care how much they try analytically to change that around. It is never going to change.
We're going to put that up on the wall, Rick. Pitching
There
and
you go,
defense wins championships, because people should know that. And I've grown up with it. I heard it all the time, because that's the reality of it. If you go out there and you can stay in the game, and the team that executes the best, Rick, as you know, that's the team that's going to be in the game. Not necessarily how many runs you can drive. It's how can you execute when the moment matters most. And typically that's when you're throwing the ball and when you have to catch it. And that's hopefully what the Baltimore Orioles will do a lot of this year. We'll wrap up here in a second, Rick. But can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
Can we expect to see you come back and give the big old O chant, the Orioles chant soon? What are we thinking?
Yeah.
No one, I love my dad.
Please.
Love Calvin Edwin, but we're going to be honest here. No one seems to get the crowd fired up like Rick Dempsey when he starts chanting and you are just out there doing your thing.
Yeah, well, Eddie was cool and Cal was cool, but Rick was a little crazy.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I wouldn't call myself cool all the time, but it's harmless. As long as you're winning, you can get away with anything. You know that. That's how I got away with the Tarpek running around in the ring, because we were always winning. Your dad was a guy I always kept an eye on, because if I was doing something I shouldn't have been doing, I could read it on his face. And so then I knew to stay away from it. But no, Cal and Eddie are what they are. They're icons. They hit home runs. They drove in runs. They were strong defensive players. I had my bad days. I'll tell you. I had some good ones. Always seemed to be around playoff and World Series times, but I struggled a little bit. But those guys commanded a lot of respect from the fans, and I'm sure it just wouldn't have been their personalities to get out there and lead Orioles. Or I got up on the stupid dugout one time and did that myself. But a lot of the fans liked it, so that made up for a lot of my offers.
Well, hey, you know what? You got to bring the energy. You got to keep believing when things aren't going right, and no one seemed to keep their mind. Even if you didn't show it all the time, I know you could be frustrated, but you went out there and still did your thing to help the team win. And Rick, you're saying all these guys, yeah, Eddie did well. My dad did well. But Rick, like I said, at that time when the team was trying to win, you were that backbone being the catcher, and a lot of people in Baltimore still recognize that. But I look forward to doing more camps with you soon, clinics, lessons at your place. The building's beautiful. I've really enjoyed getting a chance to work at the baseball warehouse. So we'll plug that out for more people. If you're looking for some lessons, you're looking for some camps, we got some options and we got some places for you. But anything else, Rick, before I let you go?
Yeah, let me say this one thing before I get off, because I was there at the Rick Dempsey Baseball Warehouse when you were giving I don't know if it was your first lesson or what. You had the young high school kid who was a sophomore. I'll tell you what, I know good hitting instructors when I see one. And I got to give you a big compliment. I love doing it on your show at the same time. But my God, you were incredible with that young man. He did everything you said. His approach was perfect, and I've never seen anybody rocket a ball in the batting cage like that young guy did. And you were a big part of helping that guy mature a little bit. So I'm anxious to see where he ends up by the time he's finished being a senior in high school. But congratulations on that. I really enjoy having you around.
Well, I appreciate it. And you know what, though? This is the thing I've learned is that you as now being on the other side, is let the players find out who they are. And that's all I'm trying to do. But I do think we have a lot of knowledge, and that's why it's fun to be able to give back. And hopefully all the mistakes I made, because hand up, I've made millions of mistakes, especially in baseball. So why not help this next generation on stuff that I didn't? But Rick, I appreciate the compliment. We got a lot more planned, and we will make sure that everyone knows about it. But you enjoy the rest of your night, evening, and afternoon, wherever you are. I appreciate you, Rick, and we will talk soon. Okay.
All right, Ryan. Thank you very much. And thank you guys for having me on.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody, Rick Dempsey.
Better keep clapping, Kevin.
Kevin, don't stop clapping for Rick.
I can't hear a thing, but I'm clapping.
Yeah.